Battle of Midway. Part 1. The Battle of Midway, a crucial naval conflict in World War II's Pacific Theater, occurred from June 4 to June 7, 1942. It took place 6 months after Japan's attack on Pearl Harbor and a month after the Battle of the Coral Sea. The U.S. Navy, led by Admirals Chester W. Nimitz, Frank J. Fletcher, and Raymond A. Spruance, defeated the Imperial Japanese Navy's fleet commanded by Admirals Isoroku Yamamoto, Chuchi Nagumo, and Nobite Kondo near Midway Atoll, causing severe damage to the Japanese fleet. Historians have described it as one of the most significant naval battles in history, with John Keegan calling it the most stunning and decisive blow in the history of naval warfare. The Japanese strategy aimed to create a defensive perimeter by luring American aircraft carriers into a trap, allowing Japan to attack Midway, Fiji, Samoa, and Hawaii. However, their plan was flawed due to misjudgments of the American response and initial positioning. Additionally, American codebreakers obtained information about the planned attack, enabling the U.S. Navy to prepare for the battle. 4 Japanese and 3 American aircraft carriers were involved. Japan's carriers, including Akagi, Kaga, Soryu, and Hiryu, were all sunk. The U.S. lost the carrier Yorktown and the destroyer Hammond, while USS Enterprise and USS Hornet remained intact. Following Midway and the attrition of the Solomon Islands campaign, Japan struggled to replace its losses in material and personnel, while the United States' industrial and training capabilities allowed for easier replacements. Consequently, the Battle of Midway, along with the Guadalcanal campaign, is seen as a turning point in the Pacific War. In the early stages of World War II in the Pacific, the Japanese Empire quickly achieved its strategic objectives by capturing various Western outposts, including Hong Kong, the Philippines, British Malaya, Singapore, and the Dutch East Indies, modern Indonesia. The Dutch East Indies, known for its valuable oil resources, was particularly significant to Japan. Planning for the next phase of operations began in January 1942 due to the importance of these conquests. However, disagreements between the Imperial Army and Imperial Navy, as well as conflicts within the Navy's leadership and Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto's combined fleet, delayed the formation of a follow-up strategy until April 1942. Yamamoto eventually prevailed in the bureaucratic struggle, and his plan for the Central Pacific was adopted. Yamamoto's main goal was to eliminate America's carrier forces, which he saw as the primary threat to Japan's Pacific campaign. The Doolittle raid on Tokyo in April 1942, though militarily minor, revealed vulnerabilities in Japan's defenses and heightened concerns about American bombers. Successful American carrier raids in the South Pacific also demonstrated the carrier's continued threat. Yamamoto considered launching another air attack on Pearl Harbor to provoke the American fleet, including the carriers, into battle. However, due to the increased strength of American land-based air power in Hawaii since the December 7, 1941 attack, he deemed a direct assault on Pearl Harbor too risky. Instead, he chose to target Midway, a remote atoll at the far end of the Hawaiian island chain, beyond the range of most American aircraft on the main islands. Although Midway was not strategically vital to Japan, it was believed that the U.S. would see it as an important outpost of Pearl Harbor and defend it vigorously. Indeed, the U.S. considered Midway crucial, and after the battle, it served as a submarine base, allowing submarines operating from Pearl Harbor to extend their range. Midway's airstrips also served as a staging point for bomber attacks on Wake Island. Admiral Yamamoto's battle plan for Operation Mi, which aimed to capture Midway during World War II, was highly complex and relied on precise coordination over vast distances. It was based on optimistic intelligence that suggested only two American carriers, USS Enterprise and USS Hornet, were available to the Pacific Fleet because USS Lexington had been sunk and USS Yorktown was believed to be lost after the Battle of the Coral Sea. Yamamoto believed that deceiving the U.S. fleet was essential, so he spread his forces to conceal their full strength, especially his battleships, from the Americans. His supporting battleships and cruisers trailed Vice Admiral Nagumo's carrier force by a considerable distance, intending to engage the weakened U.S. fleet once Nagumo's carriers had softened them up for a daylight gun battle, a tactic used by many major navies at the time. However, Yamamoto was unaware that the U.S. had broken parts of the main Japanese naval code JN-25, which exposed key details of his plan. His emphasis on dispersal also meant that his formations couldn't support each other effectively. For instance, Nagumo's carrier force had limited defensive capabilities beyond 12 destroyers, while Yamamoto and Kondo's forces had more powerful ships, including battleships and cruisers, which didn't see action at Midway. The trailing forces, including light carriers and Yamamoto's battleships, couldn't keep pace with Nagumo's carriers, preventing them from sailing together. This distance between the forces had significant consequences during the battle, as Nagumo lacked vital reconnaissance and anti-aircraft support from the cruisers and additional battleships. To gain support from the Imperial Japanese Army IJA for the Midway operation, the Imperial Japanese Navy IJN agreed to assist the IJA's invasion of the United States via the Aleutian Islands, specifically Attu and Kiska. These islands, part of the incorporated Alaska Territory, were occupied by the IJA to place Japan's home islands beyond the reach of U.S. land-based bombers in Alaska. This move raised concerns among Americans, who feared that the occupied islands could serve as bases for Japanese bombers to attack the U.S. West Coast. The Japanese Aleutians Operation AL diverted resources that could have otherwise supported the Midway assault. While some accounts previously regarded the Aleutians operation as a diversion to draw American forces away, the original Japanese battle plan intended for AL to be launched simultaneously with the attack on Midway. However, a one-day delay in Vice Admiral Nagumo's task force departure resulted in Operation AL commencing a day before the Midway attack. To face an enemy expected to have 4 or 5 carriers, Admiral Chester W. Nimitz, Commander-in-Chief of the Pacific Ocean areas, needed all the available aircraft carriers. He had Vice Admiral William Halsey's 2-carrier task force, but Halsey was ill with shingles and had to be replaced by Rear Admiral Raymond A. Spruance. Nimitz also hurriedly recalled Rear Admiral Frank Jack Fletcher's task force, including the carrier Yorktown, from the Southwest Pacific area. Despite initial estimates that the damaged Yorktown would require several months of repairs, it was quickly restored to battle-ready condition in just 72 hours at the Pearl Harbor Naval Shipyard. Her flight deck was patched, and sections of internal frames were replaced. The ship's air group was partially replenished with whatever planes and pilots could be found. Additionally, the Midway base had various aircraft, including PBYs for reconnaissance, Grumman TBF Avengers from Hornet, Marine Corps planes, and contributions from the USAAF, totaling 126 aircraft. While some of the aircraft were considered obsolete, they were the only ones available at the time. Despite these challenges, efforts were made to prepare for the upcoming battle at Midway. Before the Battle of Midway, Japan faced several challenges. The Japanese carriers had been in constant operation since December 1941, including raids on Darwin and Colombo, leading to fatigue among the crews. Additionally, during the Battle of the Coral Sea, the light carrier Shoho was sunk, and the fleet carrier Shokaku was heavily damaged and undergoing repairs. The fleet carrier Zuikaku was also unavailable as it needed replacement planes and pilots. Japanese carrier doctrine emphasized training carriers and their air groups as a single unit, making it difficult to combine survivors from different carriers. As a result, Carrier Division 5, consisting of 2 advanced carriers, was unavailable for the battle. Vice Admiral Nagumo had only 2/3 of the fleet carriers at his disposal, Kaga and Akagi forming Carrier Division 1 and Hiryu and Soryu forming Carrier Division 2. These carriers had fewer aircraft than their normal complement, with many planes in use since late November 1941, leading to wear and increased unreliability. The main Japanese carrier-borne aircraft were the Aichi D-3A-1 Val dive bomber, Nakajima B-5N2 Kate torpedo bomber, and the Mitsubishi A-6M0 fighter. Production of the Val had been reduced, and production of the Kate had stopped entirely, resulting in a shortage of replacement aircraft. Furthermore, the carrier force suffered from defensive deficiencies, including inadequate anti-aircraft capabilities, a shortage of fighter aircraft for combat air patrol, and poor early warning systems. Japanese strategic scouting efforts were also disrupted, with submarines late to their positions and a reconnaissance mission to scout Pearl Harbor prior to the battle thwarted. Japanese radio intercepts noticed increased American submarine activity and message traffic, but this information was not acted upon effectively. Overall, Japan faced various challenges and shortcomings in its preparations for the Battle of Midway, including aircraft shortages, defensive weaknesses, and disrupted scouting efforts. Admiral Nimitz had a crucial advantage in the Battle of Midway. American cryptanalysts had partially decoded the Japanese Navy's JN-25B code. Since early 1942, they had intercepted messages indicating an operation at a location referred to as AF. Although the location was initially unknown, Commander Joseph Rockefort and his team at Station HYPO confirmed that AF was indeed Midway. To further deceive the Japanese, they had Midway broadcast an uncoded message about a water system failure, which prompted a Japanese message about AF having a water shortage. This code-breaking effort also revealed that the Japanese planned to attack Midway on either June 4 or June 5 and provided a complete order of battle for the Imperial Japanese Navy IJN. Japan had a new codebook, but its introduction was delayed, allowing HYPO to read messages for several crucial days. Although the new code was implemented on May 24, the most important intelligence had already been obtained. As a result, the Americans had a clear understanding of when and where the Japanese would attack. Nimitz recognized that the Japanese had divided their forces into separate task groups, limiting their ability to support each other. This dispersal reduced the number of anti-aircraft guns protecting the Japanese carriers. Nimitz calculated that the combined aircraft on his 3 carriers and those on Midway Island roughly matched the strength of Admiral Yamamoto's 4 carriers, mainly because American carrier air groups were larger. In contrast, the Japanese remained largely unaware of the true strength and positions of their American counterparts even after the battle had begun. On June 3, 1942, at about 9 o'clock, Ensign Jack Reed spotted the Japanese occupation force west-southwest of Midway, mistaking it for the main force. 9 B-17 bombers from Midway took off for the first air attack, but they only found Tanaka's transport group 570 miles to the west. These bombers faced heavy anti-aircraft fire but caused no significant damage. Thank you for watching.